welcome.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you here. Welcome to the ExchangeWire coffee shop.
Delighted to be here, it's great.
No, it's lovely to have you.
Coffee's lovely too.
What coffee have you chosen today?
I had an oat latte.
An oat latte, very nice.
So very northern when I say that, oat latte.
Oat latte, yeah, lovely. I've had an oat flat white myself, which is my favourite for these.
In Sheffield they call that a hipster coffee in one of the coffee shops near me.
It is really. It's all anyone in Walthamstow drinks. I'm really excited about this conversation. It's a little bit off the bit off the beaten track for us, but your career is so interesting, and the move you've made into a new career is also fascinating. So we're going to have a little bit of chat about your background, and then how you ended up. I'll leave you to talk about what the change is, but then we're going to talk a little bit about wellbeing and media, and a lot about mental health. So to kick off, tell us a little about yourself and what your career has looked like.
Oh God. So I'm from Sheffield originally, but moved to London next year. It's going to be my silver jubilee, so I've been here 25 years.
Oh, congratulations.
I was going to come for 6 months or a year if I liked it. I'm still here.
Well done.
So I did the classic of like, if I go right back, I'd studied maths at uni.
Right.
So ended up going into a completely different career because I went travelling, lived in Australia, came back and thought, what do I want to do with my life? And did what, at that time, quite a lot of people did in media, was just ended up sort of researching and thought, oh, I like advertising and I like talking to people, and, you know, I want to do something that's quite fun, and media sounded quite fun.
Yep.
So I ended up, most of the jobs were in London, so I ended up moving down here, and then worked in... I started in like selling online screens in universities and in the city, and then went on to publishing, like selling magazine ad space, and then moved into digital. So worked for lots of different companies, from Dennis to Future to Amazon was my last job I had. And that's how I sort of fell into media.
So yeah, you've like you say, you were in publishing for quite a while, but you've made a bit of a change recently. Tell me about that and what you've moved into. Yeah,
so I'm now I basically became a qualified psychotherapist, and thought it was going to be something that I would have, but maybe not working straight away. And as soon as I'd qualified, it just put the seed in my brain that actually that's what I really wanted to do now.
Amazing.
It's a bit of a change, but I love it.
I imagine the two intersect. I can see the links between kind of media industry and then going into psychotherapy, and I think you're kind of balancing. I know you were speaking at Cannes this year. There's a lot for you to bring from the psychotherapy side into the media industry. How are you seeing that at the moment? What's the mental state of the media and marketing industries?
I mean, I think the mental state of the world isn't great. So, obviously the media landscape reflects that. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of redundancies, which is obviously massively affecting people's mental health, not only for the people who are going, but the people left behind. It's like, it's making people feel really unsettled. We are more contactable than ever at work. So whereas when I first started working, it was like, okay, log off, go home, come back tomorrow. Now, we don't have that luxury anymore, which is sometimes seen as a good thing, because it's like, okay, you might be able to go home and be a bit more flexible and, work around it. But actually what happens in essence is that you're just constantly switched on. So I don't think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And fair enough, and it's also, we work more internationally than ever, so different time zones have different demands for emails, and the always-on nature of it, it's tricky to balance. And it's, you must see it kind of taking a toll on people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot of feeling of, just getting on with it, pushing on, the sort of hustle culture that everyone has, where it's like, okay, I must be fine, I'm okay. And I think that people just go on with that. I mean, I did that when I was in media. So the reason I became a therapist is because I went to therapy like around 2016.
Right.
A friend from work actually recommended her therapist, who was absolutely incredible. And that, going through that for like a year, put the seed in my brain of like, this is something that I'm really interested in and I'd like to study. So then I spent 5 years studying. But what I found is that, especially towards the end of my career, I realised how I wasn't good at my own self-care. I wasn't good. I'm a massive people pleaser, so I wasn't good at pushing back, saying no, setting my own boundaries around work, which resulted in me really feeling burnt out. And the more I learned on my course, the more I was thinking, I actually could use this at work. I started understanding maybe like where there'd been communications at work where I realised I'd not handled it very well and might have, you know, if you had, like, say, a clash on a subject at work or a project you were working on, I suddenly started to see almost like the psychology behind, how that worked and how I could have handled it better. And so it just got me thinking how much what I was learning could be applied to the workplace, which is why, although, you know, I see private clients, one massive thing that I wanted to do was try and help workplaces to be more empathetic, to be better communicating, which essentially is also higher performing as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and, like, you know, bringing your own analysis of your own performance in your career into it and seeing how it could help other media businesses. And you're doing that with Wellbeing now, so you're kind of educating workplaces on being better towards, or learning the skills to communicate better, to have better employee well-being.
Yeah, and but I think one of the things is that I still don't think necessarily those skills are maybe seen as important as they are. I think the hard skills, it's a no-brainer. People will be like, okay, negotiation course, absolutely. Sales training, absolutely. You go to someone and you say, I can do a course on emotional awareness and communication or stress and change, and people are like, it's a bit of a nice to have. Not realising actually, if you can be more emotionally intelligent, if you can regulate your emotions better, if you can communicate better so that there's less conflict and less clashing, actually that is automatically going to make better performance, going to make more sales, going to make a better sort of internal communication and make things run more smoothly.
Yeah, and like you say, it's not a nice to have anymore. Like, there's a lot of pressures around the workplace. We see from, I don't know, COVID brought an incredible amount of flexibility to the workplace, which is now slowly being rescinded. I do not speak for my company, but we hear, you know, demands of 5 days a week from other companies and major corporations, and that put pressures back on people. People have got used to a certain flexibility of having it removed, and it's not just a nice to have anymore. This kind of empathetic understanding of the workforce is becoming increasingly important for, especially for a younger generation who have born into always on phones, always on social media, and how they are kind of spoken to and coped within the workplace. It must be like a fascinating space to be in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said about like working from home, I think it's weird how the mentality sometimes is by being empathetic or being flexible, there's something where it gets a reputation of being soft, letting people off, when actually it's empowering them, trusting them, and actually usually what you'll find is people will work harder if they feel empowered and trusted and respected. And I think, you know, not being flexible, who does that harm? Mainly it harms caregivers, mums, it harms, you know, people who might have mobility issues. They're the ones who like kind of suffer the most. So yeah, it's not great, and I think that flexibility can be really important. And like one of the things, like some of the programs that I do, one of them that I felt quite passionate about that I designed was a return to work for returning parents or people returning from sick leave or stress leave. So it's any sort of long-term gap. I don't have children myself, but I had worked with lots of parents in the workplace and had seen that when they returned to work after having kids, it was one extreme or the other. They were either treated like they'd never worked before, like they'd forgotten every skill they'd ever had, or treated like they'd not gone away. So it was one extreme or the other. It was either like, right, there you go, get on with it.
Yeah.
Or it was like, oh, we don't know what to do with you. Do this job that's like something you might have done 10 years ago. And so it used to frustrate me so much seeing what happened. So essentially designed a programme where I work with the returner and their manager to make sure that they have a supported return, where they can have one-to-one sessions where they'll talk to me about whatever they want to talk about completely confidentially, and a third party that's not involved in the company. But also I'll work with their manager and them together doing joint sessions where they manage expectations, they sort any teething issues, they sort the needs, so that it's done in a way that everyone is really clear, and so that hopefully they feel really empowered and supported moving forward.
Yeah, it just seems like common sense, really. You know, but like you say, it can be all or nothing, or it's just difficult sometimes. So this managed return, that kind of support would be invaluable. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask a wider question. Might catch you off guard with this one, but in terms of kind of, we've talked about internal communication, and it's a lot of what you do is around well-being, around mental health in the workspace, and like you say, supporting people when they need it. What can the media industry learn in their own advertising communications with their audiences when we talk about empathy, when we talk about kind of understanding? Could they bring these lessons into their advertising as well as their own internal communications, do you think?
100%. And I think where that comes from is making sure that you've got diverse voices in the room so that you understand, because essentially empathy is understanding. Empathy is not trying to solve everyone's problems. It's actually listening. It's taking the time to put yourselves in their place, which actually, if you understand an audience better, I mean, you know, obviously we have whole departments whose work constantly on understanding audiences better in advertising. But that's something that we should be striving to do all the time in everything that we do, is understanding people better, and also having self-awareness as well. So I think self-awareness in advertising is also very powerful, because if you are more self-aware, then you're going to be better at putting your point across and actually telling a story, which essentially is what we're doing in advertising. Also what we're doing in therapy, it's like we are sharing our story in order to become more self-aware and then understand others better, and actually, you know, be able to connect with people better.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's just struck me talking to you that it's, you know, we've talked about the internal side of it and looking after people, but also it just struck me that it's the industry we talk so much about targeting and personalisation and understanding our audiences and being where our audiences are, but there are skills here that could also really help improve that, rather than just sending me an ad that says, John, you might like these Nike trainers, and that's about as personalised as it gets, and they're very proud of that. But it could be so much more in terms of understanding a diverse audience. Like you say, it's having the voices in the room. It's really, equipping yourself with the skill to know who your audience are. And I think like some of the stuff we talked about, it's incredibly important for internal comms, but also lessons for the industry to learn in terms of how they treat their target audiences as well, and how they reach them. All about communication.
Definitely.
Excellent. Kerry, I've loved talking to you. Thank you very much for joining me for this coffee.
Good talking to you, John. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome anytime, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll put a little link to Fullbeam and how organisations can get in touch with you as well. So thank you so much for joining me.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Take care.